You're probably wasting lots of money, time, and labor if you don't know what batch picking and zone picking are and the differences between them, and you're trying to fulfill orders in your warehouse. So these are two of the most common fulfillment processes in a warehouse to get the orders out the door. And so we're going to go over what batch picking is, what zone picking is, the pros and cons of each, and when you might want to use one over the other in your warehouse. So let's talk about batch picking. Batch picking and shipping is when you have a set of orders that have identical order items in them. So let's say, for example, you have 50 orders, all different orders, and they have maybe a white t-shirt and a yellow t-shirt in them. But you're going to ship all 50 of those orders together. You're going to ship them at once. And so you're going to tell your WMS, we use Warehouse, but you're going to tell your WMS, whatever that is, that you're going to pack maybe your white t-shirt and your yellow t-shirt into a poly bag. And so you give an example of one of those orders that you're going to ship. Your WMS will know that all 50 of those orders are going to go in the exact same packaging materials. And then you can go down the line and you can just assemble these 50 at a time. And then you can take the labels that it prints out. I'll give you one big long PDF, and you can just take these labels, slap them on each of the packages that you created, and you can go ahead and ship these all at once. So it tends to be pretty efficient for orders that are small, maybe not very unique, and you have a lot of those orders. But we'll go into the pros and cons and when you want to use those later. Zone picking, on the other hand, is going to be a process that allows you to aggregate unique orders. And so you can go through a pick session with a cart. So you're walking through your pickable zone. You're going to each product that is in those 20 orders one time. So let's say 10 of the orders that I'm picking on my 20 order cart has a white t-shirt. I'm going to go to the white t-shirt location one time. My WMS is going to tell me where to go. And then I'm going to pick those t-shirts to each of the 10 orders, and then I'm going to go on to the next product. And so you're only going to each product once, and you're going to pick it into those orders, and by the end of the pick session, you'll end up having an entire cart full of maybe 20 unique orders, and then you're going to end up processing those one at a time. So what are some of the pros and cons specifically of batch picking and shipping? Well, it's very fast for like orders or identical orders. Again, orders that have identical order items in them. It's typically very easy to process those in large batches. It's also very efficient for if you're processing single item orders. So if you have a lot of single item orders, you're probably going to get a lot of like orders, and those are very good to process using batch shipping. Now, it also requires less labor just because you get to process them a lot quicker. Now, sometimes this labor does need to be a little more detailed, and so it might be worth putting some more trained warehouse workers on those batches as opposed to picking. But again, we'll go over this a little bit later. So you can also pull from non-pickable. So this is kind of an important distinction. When you're selecting the locations that you want to pull inventory from to use for these orders, you can use overstock. So let's say you're shipping 50 orders. That means you have to pull at least 50 items. And you may not store all 50 items or that quantity of that item in your pickable zone. And so you might want to pull directly from your overstock, and you can do that with bulk shipping or batch shipping or bulk shipping. Now, on the cons, it is hard to stage bulky items. So let's say you have a large, bulky, maybe vacuum cleaner, for example. Well, if you're shipping 50 vacuum cleaners, it's really not easy to stage that many, even if it's the small handheld ones, right? Those are even bulky by themselves. And it's hard to find somewhere to place all 50 of those items. So those might just be better to do in picking, and we'll go into the pros and cons of that later. It's also bad for large or unique orders. So these orders are ones that you're not going to have a lot of identical ones, and doing it through batch shipping is just not going to be efficient. Going through picking is going to be far better. Now, you also have fewer checkpoints. So this one's really important. If you make your warehouse workers scan as much as possible, which is recommended because it enforces accuracy and it's also faster, but you can't actually do that with batch shipping just because of the process of going and grabbing these items all at once. You're not going to be scanning all 50 items in the case of our examples. You're actually just going to go grab them out, and you're going to have to trust that your warehouse employees are grabbing the right quantity. And there's some checks later on when it comes to inventory management that should prevent any issues going forward. But making sure that those inventory numbers are correct the first time around is going to be important because, again, you have fewer checks built into your WMS. Here's some of the pros and cons of zone picking. So zone picking tends to be better for larger or unique orders. So let's say you have an order of 8 or 10 order items. That tends to be much easier to grab through picking rather than through batch shipping, where you have to go to each of your locations that you manually select. On the other hand, if you have orders that maybe are unique, where you're not getting a lot of those like orders, or you're not getting identical orders, then those are going to be much better off going through zone picking than through batch shipping. They also allow easy value-added services. So let's say you have specific services that you agree to do for your customers if you're a 3PL, or you want to do for your own shipping process, your own shipments if you're a brand. Then that is much easier to do with the zone picking process and shipping, because it allows you to process each order individually. It also has more checkpoints and is more directed throughout the entire process. So that means more barcode scans. That means more checks for errors and making sure that the correct items are there. And when your new employees come in and are being trained, they have far more direction in your WMS than you would through batch shipping. Some of the cons, on the other hand, is it takes more labor and time per order, and that's just a function of having to go through and pick it all and then ship it individually rather than doing it all at once. And then your inventory all must be pickable, so you can't pull from overstock like you can in batch. So that is one inefficiency as well, especially if you don't store a lot of inventory in your pickable locations or you have a smaller pickable zone. And it also is slower for small orders. So if you have single item orders, those tend to be pretty slow through picking. If you can do them through batch, that happens to be a lot better for most single item orders. So when should you use batch picking and shipping versus zone picking and your normal standard shipping process? Well, you should use batch shipping if you have single item orders or lots of like orders, and these can be both the case at the same time, and those orders should definitely go batch. I'll typically do this in the morning, or I'll advise people do this in the morning before they do zone picking. You can do them at the same time as well. That's not going to cause any issues, but we like to say, just by a good rule of thumb, is if you have more than 3 orders that are going to go in a batch, meaning you have more than 3 orders of that exact order item configuration, then that should probably go batch shipping, and then the rest would go picking, or zone picking or shipping. So what does that mean for zone then? That means larger unique orders. These are going to be ones that you're probably not going to have 3 or more of those orders in. Those should go zone picking and shipping. And even if you do have more than 3, those often will actually be more efficient to grab through picking than through batch shipping. If it requires individual processing, meaning if you have any value-added services, if you need to deal with specific attachments or anything else that requires some more thought on each individual order and some more individual processing, that is going to want to go zone picking and shipping. And then lastly, if you have few or no like orders, so if basically all your orders are unique or the vast majority of them are unique, then batch shipping may be something that's not even worth considering, because even if you have 1 or 2 batches that are more than 3 orders, it's going to take more time and effort to make sure that this process is installed properly in your warehouse than it is to just zone pick and ship those. So there's some times that you're going to want to use batch shipping and picking in your warehouse, and sometimes you're going to want to use zone picking and your standard shipping process as well. You can utilize each of these tools in your warehouse to make it as efficient as possible. Stay tuned for future videos where we're going to go over each of those in more depth and how to use it specifically in Warehance. If you're looking for a WMS that will support you with both batch picking and shipping and zone picking and shipping, then go ahead and go in the description below, check out Warehance. We'll set you up with a 2-month free trial, or you can request a demo and we'll show you around the product and see if it's a fit for you.